It's never an easy video to make. You get a lot of hate when you make a sell video, but that's what we're doing. I've got about 6 players that I am selling in my dynasty leagues, and I'll tell you why. Number 1, all right, please calm down, take a breath. But Saquon Barkley, I think it is time to sell high on the best running back in the NFL this year. You can see he's consensus RB3 pretty much across the board, across all the sites. Let me be abundantly clear in this take. Saquon might end up being the best running back in fantasy over the next 2 seasons. I'm well aware of that. However, if you're out there and you have a middling team or a rebuilding roster, there is 0 reasons for you to keep him now. There's not a single reason I can think of for you to keep Saquon Barkley. Simply put, he has reached his absolute peak in value as a dynasty asset from here on out. There will never be a moment again in dynasty football where he is more valuable than he is today. It doesn't matter what he does for the rest of his career. He will never be more valuable than he is right here, right now when you're watching this video. And I brought a very similar take last offseason that was unpopular with the people, and it was built around Tyreek Hill. And in short, that take went something like this. Tyreek was ranked as the wide receiver 3 in the 2023 offseason, and he was coming off a 20 points per game season. Again, wide receiver 3. He then proceeded in the next season to score a career high 23.5 points per game, only to fall 7 overall spots in the dynasty rankings the next offseason. So again, he was wide receiver 3. Then he has a historic year for himself. And then he falls 7 spots. Tyreek could have broken the single season receiving yardage record, and it wouldn't have mattered. He still would have fallen in rankings because ultimately age comes for every man, and that is the way a dynasty player acts. It doesn't matter if you think it's right or wrong. Simply put, every year an aging player gets older and older and older, you have less and less leverage to sell them for a good amount of value. Think about it. Think about it for a second, okay? Saquon just became the 9th running back all time to rush over 2,000 yards in a single season. Let's look at that list. You have names like Eric Dickerson, Adrian Peterson, Jamal Lewis, Barry Sanders, Derrick Henry, Terrell Davis, Chris Johnson, O.J. Simpson, RIP to the O.J. But think about it. It's extremely unlikely he ever has a better season than this. Don't believe me? Well, look at that list. Do you see anybody who repeated that action? Did anybody repeat their 2,000-yard season? No, it's never happened. There's only been 9 running backs in the history to do it, and no one has ever repeated a 2,000-yard season. So again, if you are competing, there is no reason to move on from Saquon Barkley. But to any team that is in the middle, that is rebuilding, a 1-year punt, there is literally no reason for you to hold on to him at this point. Here's what you should trade him away for. So, for example, if you can move Saquon plus something for the 101 and go get Ashton Genty and completely reset your clock, do it in a heartbeat. Can you send Saquon and a 2nd-round pick for the 101? Can you send Saquon and the 112 for the 101 and the 205? What can you do to get that deal done? Do it in a heartbeat. Can you send Saquon away for the 102 plus something? Can you send him away for 2 future first-round picks, as long as they're mid picks, right? That makes sense, not late picks. Here are some players that I would, be willing to send Saquon away for. The Puka Nakuas of the world, the Nico Collinses of the world, the Drake May in a super flex, Bo Nix plus something in super flex, Ladd McConkey plus something in super flex, Trey McBride plus something, Marvin Harrison with a bigger plus, Bucky Irving with a bigger plus. Again, those guys, you can get a plus on top of Saquon Barkley. And here are some real trades. We actually have something called the Trade Finder on the Flock Fantasy website. We are able to source real trades in real leagues that happened by the minute. And here are some trades that have happened recently with Saquon Barkley. In a 2-quarterback, 12-team start 11 league, someone was able to get Amon-Ra St. Brown. They sent away Terry and Saquon Barkley. I love getting that elite asset in Amon-Ra St. Brown. How about Saquon and someone sent away Saquon for Kyron, and they got a 1st-round pick this year. If that's in the range of the 102 to the 105 or even the 107, I like that trade. Another one. Someone was able to tier up at tight end and still get a good running back in Jonathan Taylor. They got Trey McBride, sent Kittle. I love that deal. Here's another one where someone got 2 first-round picks, and I'm assuming that 2025 first-round pick is not a late first-round pick either. If you can repeat that, do it in your leagues. Here's another example where someone pretty much got a huge haul, right? They sent away Saquon, Ferguson, and a 4th, but they got back Jalen McMillan, 2 first-round picks. I absolutely love that. So again, this is the peak of his value. he will never be more valuable in Dynasty again from this point onwards. You have to recognize that and accept that no matter what you think he can do in the future. All right, the second player we are looking to sell is not really a player, but it's actually a draft pick, and that is the 102 in every format. I don't care if you're dealing super flex or one quarterback leagues, the 102 I would like to sell. And more specifically, we would like to tier down from the 102 all the way down from the 103 to the 107, or even beyond that, depending on the return that you can get. And here's the reason. I personally believe there is a huge tier from the 102 to the 107. It could even extend beyond that if draft capital is correct. But you have names like Luther Burden and Ted McMillan and Omarion Hampton, Caleb Johnson, Travion Henderson, Quinton Judkins, and Mika Igbukah. I mean, this 102, there could be 6, 7, 8 players worthy of being that claim to the 102, depending on how the NFL draft goes. So I would like to take advantage of this class and trade back from the 102 in order to maximize the value of my asset. And I need you guys to stop saying, well, I could lose Ted McMillan, and start thinking about how to maximize the value of that asset, right? I asked people to do the same thing last year, and a lot of people couldn't do it. I said, stop telling yourself you're going to lose Caleb Williams. You're going to lose Marvin Harrison, and start thinking about how to maximize that value, right? Well, Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison, and Caleb Williams, I all had in the same exact tier. So I made a specific video about this last year, trading down from the 101 or the 102 down to the 103 or the 104 and getting a plus on top of that. Yes, you lost out on a Caleb Williams. Yes, you lost out on a Marvin Harrison, but you got just as good of a prospect, if not better, in Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors. We were doing that all last offseason. We made a complete video about it specifically. And I personally, in my leagues, have 0 Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison. Not because I don't like the players, I love them as players, but because every time I had those picks, the 101 or the 102, I traded back and maximized the value. I have so much Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors. Let's do the same thing here in 2025. So here's my plan of action. If you can go from the 102 and you go anywhere to the 107 and get a future first, you should be absolutely taking that deal. No question about it. We have helped so many people do that in real leagues this offseason already. Another option, can you go from the 102 to the 108 to the 112? Can you get 2 future firsts? Or can you even get a future first and a veteran like a Mike Evans, right? Someone on that level. All right, can you trade even further back into the second round? The 102 to the 201, the 203, and 2 future firsts. Are those deals possible in your league? If they are, I'm definitely interested in doing those deals. Here's some real trades. So C-Bomb, who's a member with us over on the Flock site, he was actually able to trade back from the 102. He sent the 102 away, the 202 and Jonathan Brooks. He got back the 106, the 206, a future second, and a free DJ Moore. Again, the player that you're going to draft at the 102, I think the 106 has just as good of a chance of being the most valuable player at that tier than the 102 itself, right? Okay, so you end up with the Travion Henderson at the 106 instead of a Ted McMillan. Big deal. They're all in a tier, for me at least, where I think the range of outcome is very, very similar. You get a free DJ Moore here. Here's another example. It's not the 102, but it is the 103. This guy was able to send away the 103 in a second, got back the 106 in a future first. Those are the type of deals we really want to be doing if we have one of those early picks in this year's class. All right, the third player I'd like to trade, Zay Flowers. All right, look, I get it. A lot of people love Zay Flowers. Clearly, you can see by my rankings and the consensus that I am lower on Zay Flowers than the average person. Love him as a player, but let's review Zay's impact through 2 seasons for fantasy football. All right, in his rookie season, he averaged almost 13 points per game, but he was 31st in points per game. Then in his sophomore season, 2024, that number comes down to 12.3. He was 32nd in points per game. Not a single season top 30 in points per game so far. And it doesn't help that the Ravens offense was elite in both of his seasons in the NFL because Zay had a middling role the entire time. I mean, look at this. The Ravens offensive points per game, they were top 3 and top 4 in the last 2 years in offensive points per game. So it's not like, oh, well, the offense isn't good. Well, Zay's great. Let's get him more involved. I mean, the offense is already firing on all cylinders. I mean, Lamar Jackson had back-to-back MVP caliber seasons. So let's see how players fared who had a similar start to their career historically. Let's have a look. So for this sample size today, we are looking at number 1, first-round wide receivers. Number 2, first-round wide receivers who averaged 11 to 13 points per game in their second season. And number 3, this data is pulled from data in the last 25 years. that is the pool that Zay Flowers sits in. That's the closest screen we're going to get to seeing players in Zay Flowers type of situation historically. And the question is, did those players ever make an impact after their second season? When I say make an impact, like truly make an impact for your dynasty roster, meaning 15 plus points per game. Did they have a 15 plus point per game ceiling? Let's set it really, really low. Well, we have 6 wide receivers who met that criteria outside of Zay Flowers, so 7 total. And only 2 out of those 6 wide receivers went on to have a season where they averaged over 15 points per game in fantasy football. However, the vast majority, 67% of these wide receivers, did not ever truly make an impact on your rosters, okay? They didn't truly ever help you win a championship or help you make the playoffs. And look, Zay is an incredibly talented wide receiver stuck on an offense that just does not need to feature the wide receiver position. I mean, they have been so good offensively, but they barely need to throw the ball. Look at their passing attempts per game in the past 3 years in Baltimore. This last year, they were second to last in passing attempts per game. Same in 2023, second to last in passing attempts per game. And the year before that, they were 28th in passing attempts per game. And look, sometimes I do daydream, because you guys know I love Zay Flowers as a prospect coming out of Boston College. And sometimes I daydream, like, man, what would he have looked like if the Chargers drafted him? You know, what could he have done on a different NFL offense? But ultimately, Zay, even if he wants out, he's probably never going to be a top 15 dynasty wide receiver, because we've already seen this story before. Remember the last time a first-round wide receiver wanted out of Baltimore? His name was Hollywood Brown. We have no idea what Hollywood Brown would have done if he was drafted by a different team, but the reality is he got his career started a little bit late, and he just never was really able to be an impact player for your dynasty roster. So I'm looking to trade away Zay Flowers. If you can trade him away for the 107 to the 109, that is highway robbery in my opinion. You know, the names that you could get there this year, I would much rather have than Zay Flowers. And here are some equivalent players on KTC. Josh Jacobs. If you're competing, I'd much rather have Josh Jacobs. Jared Goff. If you're a rebuilder, how about JJ McCarthy? Go get you some JJ. How about Bryce Young on a rebuilder? How about Ken Walker on a contender? I'd rather have those players long term. Here are some players that, according to KTC, that Zay Flowers is in a higher tier than, meaning you should be able to get a plus on top of these guys. Jameson Williams plus. Can you get Jameson Williams in a second? What is that plus? It depends on your league. Chris Olave plus. DJ Moore plus. DK Metcalf plus. Jalen Waddle. Brandon Ayuk. All of these players, technically, according to community rankings sourced by millions of people, every league is going to be different, but apparently you are potentially able to get a plus for those names, and I would definitely be looking to do it. Here are some real trades that have happened in real leagues. You can see this is exactly what I'm trying to do. If I can go the opposite way of tearing down, if I can tear up Zay Flowers in a second, go get a Ladd McConkey. Ladd McConkey, what he did this season, Zay Flowers has never come close to that. Can you use Zay Flowers to go out there and get Ken Walker? I talked about that earlier. Here's a real trade where someone did it. Can you go get a first round pick in a future year and a young stashable asset like a Jordan Whittington? Those are the type of deals I'm trying to do with Zay Flowers. All right, moving on. If you need a game plan for your 2025 Dynasty offseason, then consider becoming a yearly Mother Flocker member with the promo code LAND. You will get our team playbook, which comes with a live review specifically targeted to your league and your team on what direction to take this offseason. You also get our 2025 rookie report. So again, consider becoming a yearly member with the promo code LAND. Check out the pinned comment and let's get back to the video. How about Isaiah Pacheco? I would like to sell Isaiah Pacheco. He has been awful since coming back from injury. That shouldn't surprise you, right? It really shouldn't surprise you that serious of an injury, he's not been very good since coming back. I mean, we only have to go back to Tony Pollard to see how bad he was coming off that injury to know it's going to take some time. But the reality is, Isaiah Pacheco, since coming back from injury, he ranks 79th in yards per attempt, 85th in yards after contact per attempt, 64th in missed tackles forced. He's only forced 3 missed tackles since coming back from the injury. He's 53rd in explosive run rate and 95th in PFF run grade at 59.5. And right now in the playoffs, this team is leaning on the ghost of Kareem Hunt to carry their rushing attack. And here's the issue. Isaiah Pacheco has just 1 year left on his deal. And more importantly, the Chiefs haven't signed a running back to a long-term deal in the Mahomes era, point blank period. It has not happened. I mean, remember, here's the Chiefs starting running backs in the Mahomes era. In 2018, it was Kareem Hunt, right? Then he had the all-field issues, no long-term deal. In 2019, Damian Williams was a crucial part of their Super Bowl winning run. He did not get a long-term deal. they decided to draft a running back in the first round, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who leads them for the next 2 years. Very mediocre, huge letdown. He's off the team. And then it has been Isaiah Pacheco for the last 2 years. But more importantly, the Chiefs have been bottom 10 in the NFL in percentage of cap spent on the running back position every year in the Mahomes era. And with this 2025 running back class looking stacked, why would the Chiefs not reset the clock? Why would they not go get a couple names to compete with Isaiah Pacheco? I could envision 7 to 8 names who could take Pacheco's job in this class. So if you have Pacheco, I would like to trade him for an early second round pick in the 2025 class if that's possible, anywhere from the 201 to the 205 type of range. If you can trade him away, and this is according to KTC, equivalent player values for Alvin Kamara, for Tyrone Tracy, for Josh Downs, for Mike Evans. I like all of those deals. I'd rather bet on those players long term. Here are some guys that apparently you can get a plus on. Michael Pittman. If you can get Michael Pittman and do a second and third round pick swap, do it. Can you do the same thing with James Conner, Travis Etienne, Trey Benson? If those deals are possible, I'm doing them all day. Here are some real trades that have happened in leagues. Isaiah Pacheco was sold for a second round pick, right? We also talked about that. Here's another idea where someone sent Pacheco in a first. They tagged him on a deal to go out there and get this really fun upside piece in JJ McCarthy in a super flex league alongside TJ Hawkinson. Love that deal. Someone also was able to package Pacheco with another player who hasn't really proven anything yet in Keon Coleman and get a first round pick. They get a re-swing in the draft. I love those deals. Let's move on to my fifth player. No, I do not hate the Philadelphia Eagles. Last offseason, I brought 3 Colts in one video, and the Colts' entire fan base came after me. We told you to sell Anthony Richardson, Michael Pittman, and we told you to sell Jonathan Taylor. I feel pretty good about all those takes, but the entire Colts fan base, they did not like me for it. So Eagles fan base, do not take this personally, but I would be interested in selling Devonta Smith if I had him on my roster. Let me start by saying Devonta Smith is an incredible real-life NFL wide receiver. He's one of the best wide receiver twos in the entire NFL, but he is stuck in a capped ceiling situation. Over there in Philadelphia, they do not throw the ball very much, and that is just limiting any outcome for Devonta Smith. I mean, his first year in the NFL, they were 29th in passing attempts per game. Hurts was starting, there was no A.J. Brown. His second and third seasons, they added A.J. Brown, but they were still bottom third in the league in passing attempts. And then just this year, his fourth season, they added Saquon Barkley, and they went all the way down, tumbled to the 32nd, the last team in passing attempts per game. Passing volume has been more and more difficult to come by each and every year. And it's no surprise that in 2024, when they added Saquon Barkley, the volume just completely dipped to the lowest in the league. In fact, in 2024, the 2024 Eagles are tied for the second lowest passing attempts per game in the last decade of any season. Only the 2022 Bears had a lower passing attempts per game in the last decade. And the difficult part about this entire situation is, what am I supposed to tell you? What is the grass greener on what opposite side? It doesn't exist because this team made the Super Bowl 2 out of those 4 years. And Saquon Barkley just had a historically great season. Jalen Hurts is not someone that you really want to be throwing the ball 40 times a game anyway. I don't think his identity is going to change. I mean, think about it from this perspective, because this team isn't that different offensively. Rethink the Tennessee Titans in that era where they had Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown. It's not that different offensively. I get Tannehill and Hurts aren't the same, but imagine if you threw another name in there to try and get volume outside of A.J. Brown. It's just tough. As good as Devonta Smith can be, he's always going to have a cap ceiling here in Philadelphia, and he already signed the long-term extension, and that cap ceiling has limited his fantasy outcomes. From his second season onwards, where he scored 15 points per game, he has only regressed on a points per game basis every single season. And unfortunately, I think this is just who Devonta Smith is now, a wide receiver that has boom bust potential. I mean, I don't want to cause waves, but is it really that different than Jameson Williams? Is it really that different than Jameson Williams right now? I mean, if you can get Jameson Williams and a plus, is that not a smart move to make? I mean, here are some deals that I would like to get done. If you can trade Devonta Smith away for the 105 to the 107 this year, I'm doing that in a heartbeat. I would trade him away for a future first and a second if possible. Here are some players that are equivalent. JJ McCarthy, Sam Laporta, I'd rather build around. Roma Dunze with the new staff in Chicago. T. Higgins, I would pay a plus to get to T. Higgins. I would do a second, third round swap to get to T. Higgins. I do the same thing for Bucky Irving. Here are some players that you should be able to get a plus according to multiple consensus websites out there. Can you get a plus on top of Addison, Jameson Williams, Olave, DJ Moore, Waddle? Ayuk is ranked so low. Waddle and Ayuk are ranked so low right now. Take advantage of that. Chuba Hubbard. Somehow, in a lot of these consensus websites, you can get Chuba Hubbard plus. That's absolutely ridiculous. Here are some real trades that have happened in real leagues. Someone was able to trade away Devonta Smith and Isaiah Likely. They got Trevor Lawrence, bought him low in a super flex league and a future first round pick. Someone was able to get George Kittle, a veteran. Go get a veteran, a Mike Evans, a George Kittle, and a first round pick. Someone was able to send Devonta Smith away for Jerry Jeudy and Chase Brown. Now that one is risky, I will grant it. But if the Bengals don't address running back, you'd be cheering with that trade. All right, last trade away target we'll talk about today is Brian Robinson. I'll go through this one quickly, but B-Rob's 2024 season was defined by two stretches in reality. Weeks 1 to 5, where he looked very serviceable, and then weeks 6 to 18, where he looked like he needed to be replaced. I mean, if you look at these, two stretches, let's see, from weeks 1 to 5 versus 6 to 18, his snap percentage goes way down, almost 10%. So he's not as important to this offense anymore as they go throughout the year. I know he dealt with an injury, I know. His touchdown rate goes way down. He's no longer that important part of this offense in the red zone, on the goal line. His explosive run rate comes down. His yards after contact per attempt, his fantasy points per game, drastically, those things come down. Then in the playoffs, while this team is finding ways to win every week, he has one decent game versus the Lions, which they were up the majority of the game, but the other two games where they need them, Brian, please. Brian, can you give us 4 yards, Brian? Please. I mean, this man is not able to do it. There's no explosive plays. He's averaging well under 3 yards per carry in those other two games versus Philadelphia and Tampa Bay. I mean, let's be real. B-Rob is an average to below average starter in the NFL. And with this 2025 class coming in that we're talking about, it is stacked at running back. I could see at least 10 to 12 running backs who could take his job. They need a game-changing running back. The Commanders need that alongside Jaden Daniels. So I want to trade away Brian Robinson. If you can trade away, Brian Robinson for an early second like Isaiah Pacheco, I would do that. It's very much the same names as Isaiah Pacheco. Your Alvin Kamara, your Tyrone Tracy, your Josh Downs, your Mike Evans. If you can get those guys, I'd rather build around them. If you can get a plus on top of Pittman or Connor or Etienne or Benson, I would rather do that. Here are some real trades that have happened in real leagues. Brian Robinson sent away for an early second. Brian Robinson and a second. You can do that as well. Package him to go get a name like DJ Moore. Someone else was able to get Brian Robinson for 2 second-round picks. So I'd like to sell these players. That's my reasons why. You can fight me in the comment section below if you want, but I appreciate you watching the video. Hit the like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. All love. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, L-A-N-D, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.